The doctor is in.
Hi guys, it's Dr. Sal from DrSecrets.com. Thank you so much for joining in. Today we're going to take a look at
coming off of Effexor, aka venlafaxine, aka the frenemy. Now, Effexor is a very effective drug. The chemical name is venlafaxine, and this is its chemical structure here. So what you're really seeing here is a molecular key in your brain that opens up the doorways to happiness. And how it does that is by working on two specific neurotransmitters. So the SNRI stands for serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. So in other words, when you take this pill each day, what it does is artificially raises the levels of your serotonin and norepinephrine in your brain, fooling you into feeling that you're on top of the world, you just won the lottery, even though Rome may be burning down around you. Now, it is very effective. I have a lot of patients on this drug, and I've been very pleased with the results in the majority of cases. The problem comes when it's time to come back off of it and you have to pay the piper. So the Effexor, aka venlafaxine, produces this effect here. The problem is that when you try to come back off of it, especially if you do it rapidly, that smile that it creates turns it upside down into a frown. And it also comes bundled with a bunch of other nasty side effects. That's why I call it the frenemy. It's your friend and an enemy. So let's talk about some of the side effects you can expect to get on suddenly coming off of Effexor or venlafaxine. The most common, usually probably within about two to 3 days of taking your last dose, if you decide to come off cold turkey, aka say you're at 150 milligrams and suddenly you drop it the next day to 0. Again, that is not the recommended way to do it, but this is what tends to happen to patients that aren't aware of that or ignore my instruction. The most common side effects are that people typically complain to me are neurological in nature. So you can get stuff like headaches. You can get insomnia where you just can't sleep. You can get sweats. And interestingly enough, Effexor in low dose is actually one of its indications is for treating postmenopausal sweats. When you come off it though, suddenly it can cause sweats of its own. Another complaint that people really dislike on coming off of venlafaxine is something called brain shocks. Some people have described this to me as feeling like somebody took a rubber band in their brain and smacked them in the head. Other people have described it like electrical shocks. And then I've had other people describe it as like electricity running down their arm into their fingers, for example. I've also had one lady tell me it caused perioral numbness, so numbness around the mouth and lips. So a lot of really unpleasant, nasty side effects. In addition to that, it can also cause problems with dizziness, so you're kind of off balance. What's some of the other common ones? Oh, it can also cause something called photophobia and phonophobia, which also has to do with the headache phenomenon or migraines. So phonophobia basically means loud sounds are excruciating. Photophobia basically means that bright light hurts, it's painful. You can also get brain fog, where it's just hard to pay attention to stuff. This is not the type of scenario you want to be doing coming off of venlafaxine if you're doing your taxes at tax time, because you're highly likely going to make mistakes. You also get clumsy. Mention the brain fog. There's all other autonomic side effects. So besides the sweating, you can also get dry mouth. In the gastrointestinal system, you can get vomiting, nausea. And then, of course, because the venlafaxine or Effexor initially was used to make you feel happy, obviously one common side effect of coming off of it is it may unmask depression. I like to call this Cinderella's carriage. Cinderella thinks that her carriage is a carriage, but in actuality, it's still a pumpkin. So whatever baseline emotional status you were going to have without the chemical, when you take the chemical away, you revert back to the way we're going to feel. And in some cases, it can also be an illusion. You may get an exaggerated increase in anxiety or depression because of withdrawal from the chemical. So some people trying to do this on their own may also prematurely stop the trial of coming off the drug because it feels so rotten that they decide, hey, I still need the drug. If they had held out longer though and allowed the drug to completely wash out, then they may have found that they actually really didn't actually need it any further. They were just going through withdrawal symptoms. So how long can these miserable withdrawal symptoms last? Most people that I see, it lasts for about a month to maybe 6 weeks. But I'm going to go through next a few ways that you can avoid this trajectory of misery. The first is to realize that the same way that you start the drug, where you gradually ramp the dose up, or at least that's how you're supposed to do it, that's how you should also come back down in a step fashion. So typically when you first start on it, you're not going to start straight at 150 milligrams. Typically you start at 37.5, then you work it up to 75, then 112.5, 150, 187.5, 225, etc. So the most common mistake that people make is trying to go from hero to zero too fast. So they start at high dose and suddenly crash, and the nervous system just goes haywire because you pulled the covers off from under it. So the first thing I recommend my patients when I'm trying them coming back off of the Effexor or venlafaxine is first of all to taper it. Taper. And I tend to do it pretty slowly. So the smallest dose you can get is 37.5 commercially milligrams. So what I'll often do is say every week drop them by that amount, or every 2 weeks. Up until the very final 37.5 dose. So when you're down to the very last tranche that the very smallest dose you could get, then I might do that once a day, so OD, for say like 2 weeks. And then if I want to give them a real easy descent off, then after the once a day, then I'll do it alternate days. So alternate days for another 2 to 4 weeks. Typically what I tell them is after the second week, if they're feeling no withdrawal symptoms, they feel fine, you don't need to do the distance and go all the way to the 4th week. So that's method 1 for reducing the misery coming off. So taper. Another method that you can do is to substitute. You still taper, but when you get to the end, if you're still having a lot of withdrawal symptoms, like I actually saw a lady today, she was down to this amount, and 4 days ago she ended. She was doing the alternate days thing, and she still started getting the brain shocks and brain freeze and all that miserable stuff. So what I recommended to her, and in some other cases like that, is to substitute then over-the-counter herbal St. John's wort. The reason for that is the St. John's wort has in a very natural, mild SSRI. And don't get these two mistaken. SNRI is serotonin and norepinephrine. The St. John's wort is just a pure serotonin reuptake inhibitor. But that's at least still covering half your bases. So if you can artificially boost your brain's serotonin level, then you can fool it into feeling happy and pleasant again. A final method, in some cases, some people are so sensitive when they're coming off of it that even those two methods aren't sufficient for them. So one final trick that I've occasionally used is, even though 37.5 milligrams is the smallest aliquot or dose that is commercially available, if you go to a pharmacy that does something called compounding, blah, blah, blah. Pharmacies that compound can take the 37.5 tablet and open it and reduce your dose by eating half of that into a smaller capsule. So that just can, again, reduce the steepness of the descent. So a few people, what I've done is put them after they reach the 37.5 on even half of that. So 50% then of the 37.5. And of course, the fourth thing you can do, if all else fails, is basically just wait it out. That's the most unpleasant to do though. So wait it out. Eventually, if you do nothing, your brain is very adaptive. It will keep trying to heal itself. So if you give it enough time, it will gradually extinguish the effect, and all those miserable withdrawal side effects will basically take care of themselves. So I hope you found this video on coming off of Effexor, aka venlafaxine, aka the frenemy, useful. Edit to yourself or someone else that you know that's trying to going through some withdrawal misery right now. And if you have any questions, you can post them here on YouTube. Sometimes I'm too busy to answer them individually, but I do try my best. And I hope you have a terrific rest of your week, and thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for watching. Get notified of new videos. Subscribe now.